Welcome back to another episode of your Digit Hustle News. As always, guys, I'm Wade Teamer. Over the weekend, numbers were released that showed us that US inflation had reached a 39-year high. This only proves two very important things, guys. The dollar, in its current form, is finished. Finito. Done. Put a fork in it. Okay? And secondly, the digital asset economy, the blockchain industry that we are invested in, is here to stay. That is why we see things like this: the IMF calling for crypto regulation to be comprehensive, consistent, and coordinated. Also, China has linked with Hong Kong's payment system for a faster version of their CBDC. And then we have, of course, the Warren Buffett backed new bank has gone public in both Brazil and the United States, guys. But the biggest news, besides the fact that DeFi was invented by a black man, but the biggest news, guys, that lays underneath all of this is the announcement that ISO 222 services will be available a full year prior to launch. Now, this is going to be our main focus, guys, because with ISO providing early access to banks worldwide, this means that the wheels are turning a bit sooner than expected, and we must now turn our attentions to the ISO compliant blockchains that we know of in the space. Now, before we get into that, however, let's find out more information on this announcement. It states that December 9th, Swift announced the availability of new inflow translation services and confirms that it will now offer full ISO 222 customer testing environment for cross-border payments. The inflow translations will enable financial institutions to realize the benefits of rich data when they migrate to ISO 222, even if their counterparts have not yet adopted. Keep in mind, guys, the ISO system is a messaging system. This new messaging system is what's going to allow for the high throughput that will be coming from a lot of these high powered blockchains that aim to be compliant. Now, in a quote, it states that the service translate rich ISO messaging into existing MT formats for banks that are not ready to process the messages immediately. It is also important to note that early adopters of the system will be able to use the new standards as early as August of 2022. But by November, guys, all banks will be automatically enrolled in the services by no later than November. Now, if you've watched our last video on the agenda for 2022, guys, we know exactly why we're seeing this. We know exactly why this is happening. The G20 made cross border payments the priority, and now their biggest weapon is ready for battle. But what are we going to do, guys? What weapons do we have? Well, let's go into the armory, because now two very important groups we need to pay attention to, guys. The first of those groups is the real time payments group. Okay. The real time payments group consists of more than 70 stakeholders from 17 different countries, including Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, UK, and the United States, with representation from different payment services providers, financial institutions, regulators, so forth and so on, guys. But the next group we need to pay attention to is the payments SEG member list. And this is where we will find our weaponry, guys. As you can see on the list, it is a list of companies that is associated with banks that are most likely to adopt this new standard, guys. And this is where we will find our weaponry. You'll see here that we have a list of nations and the corresponding entities that represent them. First, of course, is Australia, right at the top of the list. And they have been very public about their digital currency ambitions. Next, we have Canada. And this is where we can draw our first weapon in the form of the Canadian Payments Association, guys, which is responsible for the payment, clearing, and settlement infrastructure, including associated systems, bylaws, rules, and of course, standards. This will be the governing body in that region for digital payments. Now, notice how they also include associated systems. First thing that comes to mind with that, Stablecorp, aka the Canadian stablecoin issued on the Stellar Lumens blockchain. Now, on top of that, December 6th, Stellar Lumens announced a layer 2 channel protocol. This new protocol is going to allow XLM to process over 1 million payments per second, guys. 1 million payments per second. Now, next we have China in the form of the China Financial Computerization Corporation. Clearly, they have some sort of influence over linking China's CBDC to the Hong Kong network, guys. Now, continuing further down the list, we have France in the form of Society Generale. Now, this is when we have to bring Tezos into the discussion. Back in April of this year, Society Generale issued the first structured financial product on a public blockchain. That public blockchain was Tezos, guys. Now, going through the rest of the list, we can see some other huge names here: MasterCard, Deutsche Bank, DNB, and of course, Ripple, guys, which we know has a global reach and is actively seeking more nations to join their ranks. For example, in November, Ripple partnered with the Republic of Palau for a CBDC. Okay, this is our third weapon. Next, we're going to move over to South Africa, which we know is a hotbed right now when it comes to digital asset adoption. Many of our favorite projects are doing work here already, but one project that is working very hard in Africa and nobody is really talking about is Cello. Okay? In September, they held an event that had some very big names in attendance. Representatives from central banks, including the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlements, gathered together to discuss how blockchain technology might change the DNA of money as we know it. Okay? Now, going back to the list, continuing, we have the sixth group. Of course, that's Solana. We already know that. Vocalink and Barclays. Then, right at the bottom of the list, guys, we have the New York Federal Reserve, who we know just partnered with the Bank for International Settlements on a fintech research center. Now, who do we know who is working hand in hand with the Federal Reserve in New York? MTech, Project New Dawn. Project New Dawn is built on which network, guys? That's right. Hello, future. It's Hedera Hashgraph. Okay? So, these are our biggest names, biggest players, the sharpest tools in the box, if you will. But one project in particular that has risen to the surface recently that no one is talking about is crypto.com. If you didn't know, in November, crypto.com became one of the most secure platforms in the world with this SOC 2 compliant certification. This certification, guys, makes crypto.com compliant with the coming ISO standards that we know are having an early release. It's no wonder they got into position when they did, guys. So, this is the new narrative in which to follow. The movement to these ISO standards will usher in the payment coin renaissance, guys. A renaissance. The most important coins will be those that bolster interoperability, speed, and security. Now, I'll admit, earlier in the year, I thought that ISO coins were just a select few, an elite class, already determined. But in light of recent information, after a year's worth of research, I have reached a new conclusion. We shouldn't look to ISO projects as being a select few, guys. We should look for the blockchains. We should look for the cryptos that are striving to become ISO compliant. Because ISO 222, this is the new standard. If you found value in this video, you know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so that you never miss another one. Also, if you're new to crypto, Abra, Crypto.com, FTX, and Coinbase links are in the description. And as always, guys, before we leave every video, you know I want you to have a great day, have a prosperous day. But most importantly, we making this money. I'll see y'all in the next one.